Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Chandria of Chandria Carol Stitches. If you're new here, thanks so much for deciding to check out one of my videos. And if you're not new here, I really appreciate you deciding to come back, and I hope you continue to keep coming back. Thank you so much. Okay, this has been an interesting month, April. Work has been absolutely exhausting. I had a 3-week internal audit at work that just sapped every bit of energy from me, so I really don't have a ton of stitching today. I've got 3 projects that I worked on. I do have pretty significant progress on those projects though, and I have quite a few plans of things to work on, so I'll show you what I plan on working on in May. Let's get into it. So the first thing I want to talk about, I didn't have any fully finished objects, FFOs. I'm counting this as a finish. It's a finish for now. I finished a part on a sow. So what I'm talking about is the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery Castle Homecoming. That's what it looks like. I will pop in a picture of what it looked like last time. And then here's what it looks like now. So I put in this tree, this castle, and then the path, and yeah. Can't see, so hopefully that's in frame. I'm trying out a slightly different setup this time. I'm not sure if it's gonna work out, but it's a lot easier for me to set up than my previous little setup. So if this works, it would be fabulous. Yeah, so this is stitched on, I got the kit, so everything that came in the kit, 32 count Picture This Plus Valor, and the needleminder is also from the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery as part of this set. Yeah. So cute. I do plan on continuing. This is parts 1 through 8 of the Stitch Along. The Stitch Along just wrapped up earlier this year, I think in February. So I'm behind, but I'm not crazy behind. There are 2 parts left, and those parts, there's the king of the castle that is standing right here in this open spot, and then there's a top border and a sky. So not a ton left. The fabric, clearly, I thought I started in the middle, but I think there's going to be a little bit more at the bottom than the top, but it still should be fine. Yeah, so that is that. Next, we will talk about a new start that I had. Everyone and their mother has talked about this already. This is the Deadly Aquarium Sow by Lola Cross Stitch. I will pop up a photo of the frame, which is all that's been released so far. This is a stitch along that has just started, I believe about 2 weeks ago. You, of course, are still able to jump in at any time, but currently for this one, there's about 6,000 stitches in this frame, and she gave us 6 weeks to stitch on it, so that evens out to about 1,000 a week before the other actual drops start happening. So plan accordingly if you think you can keep up or not, but of course there's no rule of keeping up. If you can tell from all of my other sows that I don't do that. But I'm going to really try to keep up on this one. So It's a new start. There's not a photo of what it looked like last time. So this is what we look like now. I'm not quite 30%. Actually, let me just tell you exactly where I am. Okay, so I think I haven't updated my Notion yet for today, but there's not a lot yet that I've done. So it says that I have 1,660 stitches out of a total of 6,082. So I am at, good Lord, I'm at 27.3%. So yeah, I think I'm a little bit farther than that, but close enough. I started on the 310 first. I think that's the aim for a lot of people because I think there's about 2,000 stitches of the black, the 310. So, and then it gives you a really good outline to go from there to fill in the other colors. Yeah. This is stitched on 36 count Lagoon linen by Fiber on a Whim. And this needleminder I thought was perfect. It's one of the coins from Pirates of the Caribbean, the movie. This was a Disney pin way back in the day. I wonder if it has the date on it. 2008. So this was a Disney pin that I got in 2008 and turned into a needleminder that now I can enjoy. You will find that I do that with a lot. I either pick up pins at expos and events, or just buy them if I see them on Instagram or something and get a hankering for them and buy a pin. But and then I turn them into needleminders because for me that's the best way to enjoy them and get some use out of them. Okay, so that was kind of a finish. My new start, and then we'll talk about the only other project I worked on that it was a whip, still is a whip. This is Homely Houseplants. This was a March whip go goal that I'm behind, but I'm getting there. I completed this goal. My goal was 1,000 stitches. I will pop up the cover photo because for some reason I only have a printout of the chart itself. I will pop up a photo of what it looked like last time. And then here is where we are now. So since you saw it, I brought up this planter pot stand thing. And then I added this entire plant, and then I started filling in the stem and leaves of this plant. Closer. This is stitched on 32 count Garden Party Lugana by BeStitchMe. Yep. This pattern's by Stitchonomy. I don't think I mentioned that. I joined this when it was a free stitch along, but now you can purchase it, I believe, on their Etsy. And same thing, I'm not sure where I got this pin, but this was a pin that I turned into a needleminder. So stats on that one, I have stitched 3,143 stitches out of 8,082 stitches. So I'm at 38.9% done with that one. That's it. No, I'm just kidding. That is all I've stitched on. But I want to go over plans for May. I also do have a book talk when I don't feel like stitching after a rough day at work. Stitching is relaxing, but it does still take a little bit of brain power, especially some of the patterns. So some days I do not feel like stitching. I'm way too tired. It's a lot easier to just read a book in bed. So I have read quite a few books. So I'll talk about those towards the end of the video. I've also decided that if anyone cares, I think I'm going to give like a little life update. The whole reason why I wanted to start a Flosstube in the first place was to form some connections in the Flosstube community. And I feel like if you're not really getting any sort of sense of who I am and what I like to do, the things that I get up to that are not really stitchy related, that how are you going to decide if you want to be friends with me, right? So I'm going to talk about just a few things. I'm also going to do that towards the end. I'll give you a heads up if you are not interested in that. Putting timestamps can be a little more effort that I want to put into it. I really need this to be as low stakes as possible. Or I'm going to feel like it's a chore and it's just, I'm going to go months without posting. So I don't think I'm going to bother with timestamps. If you see them down there, great. If you don't, I didn't bother. What else do I plan on talking about? I have a little bit of fabric haul. And I have some shout outs that I would like to give. Again, my brain just sort of goes out the window when I start filming. But this time, I tried to take some notes, and we'll see how that goes for us. But I wanted to have some notes, have a better plan, have things laid out in advance, so maybe I won't forget anything, like when people shout me out and I don't say anything about it back, so sorry. I think first I'm going to go ahead and do haul because it's really quick. I know a lot of people don't care that much about haul, so I'll breeze past it and then talk about plans. Just some pretty fabrics and that'll be it. So I got my Fiberlicious Yummy Fibers Fabric of the Month. I'm also in the BeStitchMe Fabric of the Month club, but that one hasn't come in yet, so you will see that next time. For Fiberlicious though, I'm in the 18 count Ada. And this color is Magnolia Magic. So that is pretty true. I really like the modeling on this one because since this is 18 count, you can get a pretty good sized or like multiple decent sized patterns on this. And you can see like there's this splotch of like a darker, brighter pink. And then especially like over in this section, there's like a really good much lighter pink section. So I really like that. Sometimes the way that Ada dyes is not absolutely my favorite. So a color scheme that the dyer does can look really, really good on linen and only okay on Ada. And then sometimes it's the other way around because I think that the Ada sort of softens some of the harshness in the gradients between colors. So I think that sometimes Ada even looks better. But just in general, it is really interesting to see the difference that the type of fabric is when you dye it. So Fiberlicious was also having a sale towards the end of March. The ones that I bought, of course, were dyed to order, so they took a while to come in, which I mean, it is what it is, and they give you a really good lead time estimate on how long to expect it. So it was within that, no issues whatsoever. Just be aware it is dyed to order and it can take a But I had hoped that maybe it would come in time for the Deadly Aquarium. I ended up having to like rush and order something off of 123 Stitch because it didn't. But I think that it actually turned out better because when I got my fabrics, they're both kind of similar. I mean, they're different enough, but they are kind of similar. And one of them on the photo I thought was going to be lighter, so I don't think it would have worked the way I wanted anyway for Deadly Aquarium. So now I've got two gorgeous pieces to save for later. So first, and I'll show this one because this was the one that I had contemplated for Deadly Aquarium, which I'm sure would have looked fine, but I wanted something a little more close to the model, I guess, because I don't know what it's going to look like. So I was kind of staying close to the model. So this is 32 count linen, which is my favorite. And this is called Mermaid Lagoon. So it's mostly a tealy blue. It's absolutely stunning. There is not a lot of modeling. I mean, you can tell it's hand dyed, but it's not crazy colors, which I like that as well. So depends on what you're looking for. There is a lighter spot down here with a tad bit of green, but this is mostly just a stunning blue, like a lagoon, Caribbean, like just vacation blue. And then the other piece, I'm sorry, I'm putting the sleeves back on, is called Maldives. This is also 32 count linen. And oh my gosh, stunning. Just stunning. This is got some, it's very similar to Mermaid Lagoon in one of the colors. And then it's also got a darker shade and then a shade of green in it. So they are very different, but they are tonally, I would say, in the same like color family, other than the shades of green on this one. But yeah, this one is just absolutely splendid. This goes along with expected haul because it was purchased. And I guess that I will talk about some of the boxes that I buy. I don't purchase a lot of boxes. Mainly I purchase my things piecemeal, but I do get a few Black Mule Society boxes. And I will show the Arctic animal items. I got a couple of pieces from the launch that the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery did. If you've been here with a few of my other videos, I do quite a few Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery, and of course this stitch along. The Castle Homecoming that I showed is a Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery pattern. So I am doing the upcoming SAL. It starts in May, I believe, and I'm going to use this fabric, Maldives. I think that the green in this is giving like Aurora Borealis vibes. And then I also think it's dark enough that it's going to look stunning with the amount of white that's going to be in that Arctic Animals pattern. I actually did not purchase the kit because I don't care that much about, I mean, I'll stitch on it, but I don't care that much about 28 count fabric. I feel like the pieces end up really large, so if you've got a large pattern, it's I'd rather have it a slightly smaller finished piece because there's only so much wall space in your house, right? But neither here nor there. But I did purchase the pattern. I purchased the narwhal scissor fob and the needleminder to have so many Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery needleminders. They're also just cute and lovely. So yeah, anyway, I'm going to use this fabric for that pattern. since I was talking about it, and that's a good segue into plans, I'll just pop up a photo of what that looked like if I didn't already put that up. Editing. So that's one of the plans, the Arctic animals. The other plan is to keep up with, let me get my notes up for this while don't leave anything off. Okay. Keep up with Deadly Aquarium. I am a little behind because it's been out for a hair over 2 weeks now, and I'm a little under 2,000 stitches, so I do need to get caught up, but I'm not like already crazy behind here. I don't want to get burned out on it, so that's why I was still going ahead and working on Castle Homecoming and one of my WhipGo projects, because stitching just black, it gets old. Like, it's really nice to just keep using the same color. There's not a lot of color changes yet, obviously, yet. But I don't want to get burned out on this piece when we haven't even seen the good stuff yet. So I do plan on still aiming for around 1,000 stitches per week so that I can work on some other things. I do have a new start that I want to have, and this is not the pattern. I'm a member of the Witchy Stitchers Patreon, and she has been doing nostalgic tarot card drops for a few months now. I think she does 2 of them every other month. And I think the idea started because she did a nostalgic Ouija board and a nostalgic, like a set of options for planchettes. And everyone went mad because they're so cute, and the Lisa Frank style, they're just great. But I couldn't really see the Ouija board on my wall, and it's just not really my thing. So I was actually much more ecstatic when she started doing the tarot cards. So she dropped the first 2 tarot cards. I have these printed cover photos. So the first one was the Lovers, and she may have done these in February, which is why she started with the Lovers. And Death. And of course, rightfully so, everyone loved them and asked if she was going to do the entire tarot deck. I don't think she had planned on it because of the size of each of these is, I think, like a 111 by 111. No, 69 by 111. So I remember the 111. So 111 tall and 69 wide, which gives so much detail in each pattern, but I don't think she really considered if anyone would want to do the whole deck as one piece. But people asked about it, and she delivered. She created the outline for the entire deck and a little border. This is actually going to be free. When she releases it, she says that she's going to have this border on like the freebie section of her website or something like that. So that'll be available for free if you do want to do the whole set, even if you're not a member of her Patreon. But the others, I think 3 to 6 months after they were originally released as Patreon patterns, then she'll have them available to buy. So those were the first 2, and then she's since then also released, and these were the 2 that really made me, okay, I want the entire set, and I want that on my wall. Maybe 10 years from now, because this is huge, but the next 2 are the Empress, which that is a possum. I have never seen anything cuter in my life. And then the last one, again, never seen anything cuter. This is the Fool. And it's a panda. Oh. So, I ordered an entire yard of 20 count black Ada because I'm doing this on Ada. I am not doing linen or even weave for this. So Ada, and there's plenty left over from the full yard, but just the way that the measurements worked out, I needed an entire yard to get the full amount. So the frame size, which, and then of course you fill in the inside. So the frame size is 464 by 525. Massive. Absolutely massive. This is a BAP if there ever has been one. She said that she actually had to hack her the software that she used for pattern design because it was never made to make something this big. Again, she did not plan on having this as all one big piece. So I think it's really amazing of her to give the people what they want and design the border. But yeah, I love it. I wouldn't say this is 100% my normal aesthetic, but I like a huge variety of different things, and this is a great example of something that I don't know if it had been a different style that I would have wanted to stitch an entire tarot deck, but I am now, and I'm thrilled to be getting started on that. So I've got everything kitted that's ready to go. I'll pull floss as I need it. I went ahead and pulled the floss for the border. I'm going to start with the border and do as much of that as I can before I just get super bored. And then I'll start filling in the cards themselves. There is zero time frame and when I expect to get this done. It's going to take forever for her just to release the card patterns anyway. But I would like to get it started because it's already going to be a decade before it's done, I'm sure. The other planned new start that I'm not sure when it'll happen, but it'll happen sometime in May, is Light by Barbara Anna. I'll pop up a cover photo. This is actually a freebie from Barbara Anna. I believe it's been a freebie for years now. You can find it on her link tree on her Instagram, or that's where I found it. I'm sure you can find it somewhere else, but that's where I got it. I believe that this is 32 count succulent lugana by Color and Cotton. And that's what I'm going to do this on. And the reason why I'm going to do this is for this, getting ahead of my shout outs, but Stitches and Spookies here on Flosstube and also on Instagram is having a Foxy 40 sow for her 40th birthday, which is at the end of May. And I could always use an excuse to start a fox pattern, so I've wanted to do this one for a while. Like I said, it's been a freebie for years, and I've wanted to get it started, so I'm going to do that for her. Tell you more about her later, though. I want to finish my plan section. I think everyone in cross stitch who watches Flosstube and makes Flosstubes, that sort of thing, is familiar with the month of May and the craziness that ensues. It's all super wonderful, taking honestly what would just be a random month and giving so much excitement to otherwise, just a normal month. I believe the original concept of Stitchmania, I'm not sure who came up with it, but it's been going for years, which is essentially to start a project start new projects that, and the specific number of which is the last two. Okay, I'm doing a really bad job of explaining this. So for 2023, you would start 23 new projects in the month of May for Stitchmania, the like typical way. For 2024, it would be 24. That's just going to keep increasing until it gets to a completely unreasonable number. So I think it probably started around 2020 or before, probably well before, but when it was a halfway reasonable amount of starts. But anyway, I did that last year. I believe I did start 23 projects, and it was great. I went ahead and got a lot of things that were just sitting there as kits that were already ready to go started. But I'm not going to do that again. I think I don't care to have an insane number of whips. That's fine with me because you can't finish it if you don't start it. But I don't like just the sad starts that I get on these projects. So I'll get them started, but they're not much. They're barely a whip. We're talking like 100 stitches in a project. So yes, it started, but I half the time can't even tell which way is up. And I have even discovered when I went back to a couple of my Stitchmania starts from 2023 that I started them in the wrong orientation. So it's probably a good thing, like for the fabric, I would start it's longer in one direction than the other, and I started it going the wrong way. So probably a good thing I didn't get a lot of progress on these, but I would just rather not do that again for now. I want to get some good progress on the whips that I have. I have quite a few that still have sad starts, and I have quite a few that are so small that they really shouldn't last as long as they have. So I want to work on those. So with that being said, my plans for May are not to do Stitchmania, not to do Stitchsania or Monogamy or whatever. I'm going to do one, I don't even have a cute name for it. And then the other is I'm going to do Mira May. I'm probably not doing Mira May the way a lot of people are doing Mira May, but I have one Mirabilia pattern started. I will pop up a photo. And I have some work on her, but I've got several Mirabilias that I really want to do. So I'd like to get this one done. This one is my trial Mirabilia, I guess, like my intro to Mirabilias. I wanted to see how it went, like if the beading and kernick and everything was not just going to be too much for me, which I don't think it will, but anyway, this is my little intro baby. Actually, this may be a Noracorbit, but Mirabilia Noracorbit. But anyway, yeah, so I'll show you where I'm at. This is what I've got. I did a color conversion on the dress. The original dress is like a grayish purple, but I have this really pretty Fiberlicious silk. So that red color for the dress is Fiberlicious, a silk called, I think, Red Bordeaux. And then there's a few other colors of like purple and red to give a sort of blend that are all Forbidden Fiber Co. So I did a dress conversion, but the skin, the owl, all of that is going to stay the same. And yeah, I think I've got a decent start on this, but there's no face even. Like, I want to get more on this. So I'm going to try to get some work on this. I don't have a goal. I don't have like a number of days or a number of stitches, but I just want to work on it. It never seems to come out for any other reason because I think I'm still a little bit intimidated by this project. So we're going to rip that Band-Aid off and I'm going to get some more work done on it. This is, I believe, 32 count Anubis by Under the Sea Fabrics. And this pin is, love it, what is it? A penta-goat or a goat-agram, whichever you'd like to call it, but it is a goat in a pentagram. This is made by a friend of ours. They go by Grave Markings on, like, they have a website, gravemarkings.com. I usually mention them if I have one of their pins, but yeah. And then the other focus, I guess, for May that I want to do is I want to each week focus on a different small, or in one case, I'm really close to finishing, well, pretty close to finishing it, so it's not that big anyway, but I want to focus on finishes. I want to try to finish a total of 4 projects, 1 per week in the month, to knock off some of these little guys because I have so many more little guys that I want to work on. So let's knock some of these out. The first one, and I will do it first because I gotta pop up a photo, it's not really in any particular order, is by Haunted Frame Stitchery. I believe this is called Haunted House Mailbox. So this is what it currently looks like. You can kind of make out what it is. This is a little ghosty. It's a letter going into the mailbox. This is the flip down lid of the mailbox. Yeah. Let me try to find what that is stitched on because I don't remember. Yeah, so Haunted Hearts Mailbox by Haunted Frame Stitchery. This is stitched on 32 count Abyss by Fabrics by Stephanie linen. I have 264 stitches, which is 19.4%. I have 1,096 stitches left, which is why I think I can finish it. And if not, it will be very close. Next, this one I have the photo, is Silver Bells by Lindy Stitches. And here is where we are on that. Get up the info again. So this is stitched on 32 count white even weave that I got from Michael's. Don't recommend. It's just, I feel like there's so much starch in it that it makes the threads kind of hard to stitch through, and I think you can wash it, but I can't now because I've already used hand-dyed threads on it, but it would be fine if you just washed it before you started using it, I think, but I would probably stick with Ada or the linen that you can buy at Michael's because it just shreds your floss. Anyway, so I have stitched 1,583 stitches on this out of a total of 2,284, putting me at 69.3%. I have 701 stitches left. This is gonna get done. So all I have left is the peacock itself, and I think maybe, like, I know there's some more of the holly leaves, but yeah, this is very close, so gonna get that done. 2 more. The next one is N is for Narwhal. Where's it? N is for Narwhals. N is for Narwhal. By Hands On Design. This one you can get as a PDF on her website. It was originally part of the, well, I mean, it is part of the Polar Plunge series, but this one was originally a charity pattern, so you buy this one as a PDF from her website. All the others you can get printed at your LNS, ONS, wherever. Here is where I am at on that. This is stitched on 32 count Sea Spray linen by Seraphim. Trying to get the stats. The pattern, I mean the needleminder is by Caterpillar Cross Stitch. So this one has a total of 988 stitches to begin with. I have 437 stitched, putting me at 44.2% with 551 stitches left. This had better get done. And then last but not least is Year of the Dragon by Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. So 2024 is the Year of the Dragon in Chinese Zodiac. So I went ahead and started this for that. It's also Year of the Dragon Sao. So here is where I am. This is stitched on 32 count lightly salted, not roasted linen by BeStitchMe. The needleminder is from the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. I believe this was from the Year of the Rat. The stitch count on this is 2,341. I have stitched 821 for 35.1%. I have 1,520 stitches left. So this is the one that has the most stitches left. If I don't get this finished in May, I'll be okay. That's still not a ton, but where I do want to keep up on my sows, those are more important. So I would rather keep up on the sows, finish those 3, at least the 2 that have less than 1,000 stitches left. Like, I mean, come on. And then see where we get. Again, if I don't accomplish these, I know that May is a very busy month for me. I have 2 audits that I have to travel for, and that's exhausting. So I'm giving myself grace. These are the plans. Hopes and dreams, as Marjorie Maiden says it. But we'll see what happens. That's the aim. What's next? I believe shoutouts, but I want to try to stick to my little note schedule here. Yes, shoutouts. So, I have been extremely negligent I don't believe I have shouted out Tara of Wilderwoman Crafts once since I started my channel. And that is a very rude friend of me thing to do. So I'm sorry. Please go check out Tara at Wilderwoman Crafts. Her channel is great. And I'm not just biased, but she has so many cool projects. Some of the most interesting things the things I love the most that she has finished has been Dark Queen of the Earth by Autumn Lane Stitchery, and she also has finished the entire Bird Crush Club by Lindy Stitches, and I think they're even all framed now. If not, she's working on getting the frames because those are not cheap. So, but still, all 12 of those, huge accomplishment. And yeah, she just has a lot of different varying projects. And she's just really super sweet. So go check her out. The next person I want to shout out just actually recently shouted me out. I really appreciate that. Thank you. They are Stitches and Spookies by, their name is Amanda. That's who is having the Foxy 40 Sal, because you can still be a foxy lady at 40. Foxy whoever you are at 40. 100%. And I don't, I'll take any excuse to start a new project, I guess. But their channel is really cool. They have a horror section. They're a huge horror fan. And the one that I watched recently was on Valentine's Day horror movies, and that was absolutely fascinating because, to be perfectly honest, I'm not a big horror person, so I didn't even know there were so many horror movies that had like a love Valentine's Day or like a relationship focus that she felt like Valentine's Day. So that was absolutely interesting. Am I going to watch all of these? No. Am I going to watch some of these? Maybe. But are they amazing to hear about? 100% yes. So she also has a Stitchy Talk section, and I just found out about crafty reuse shops where people can donate craft supplies they're not going to use anymore for whatever reason, or maybe it was a family member who's passed their craft supplies that the family doesn't know what to do with because they're not really crafters, that sort of thing. And I actually have one near me that I had no idea. So now I'm going to make a Stitchy date out of it at StitchCon. So yeah, I'm really excited. Didn't know about that. The next person is not just one person, they're two people. Cross Stitch the Globe, Stephanie and Allison. They have just the most interesting, fun sibling relationship. I'm an only child, so I don't have that, and I'm really jealous. Wish I had that. But yeah, that's just great. They also have what they call Cross Stitch University, and they have videos telling you like tips. You always, you can never be too old to learn things. You can always learn either a new way of doing something that makes something easier, or just something you didn't know. So really love that. The most recent one, I believe, was how to soften your Ada. I know a lot of Ada can be really stiff and crunchy. Hand-dyed Ada doesn't necessarily, usually doesn't, because it doesn't have, I'm going to let them go watch that video if you want to know why Ada is stiff and how you can fix that, if that's not your thing. Some people actually like the stiff if you're going to stitch in hand. But they also have really cool extras. For Mira May, they did a like Mirabilia pattern parade and so many cool things. So yeah, go check them out. I believe they had mentioned me in one of my videos as well, so thank you. I appreciate that. And then the last person I want to talk about for this video, of course, there's a lot more people I can talk about. So, just someone that I have been watching recently. Subpar Stitches, Hillary. They have a big variety of patterns as well. Like, their work stitching project is purveyed for these times by Long Dog Samplers. They're a member of the Witchy Stitchy Patreon as well, and I believe they're working on the Tarot Sal. But the most interesting and the most unique thing that I look forward to in each of their videos is talking about their Year in Stitches project. So for this year, every single day of the year, which is 366 because it's a leap year, they design like a max 20 by 20 pattern and have it all on one giant piece that's like a stitch diary. A lot of them are self-drafted. There are some that are from different sources, but it's just so cool. And she'll go through them one by one, telling why was this significant for this day and, you know, why I chose this pattern. It's genius way to tell about your life update, that's for sure. But yeah, really enjoy that. That's probably definitely the most unique thing I've not seen. I think I've seen some, like, on Instagram, I've seen some embroidery stitch diaries, but this is a really cool take on that. So yeah, I've got a lot more Flosstubers that I watch that I will talk about at a later date, but I wanted to go ahead and just get a few for this video, and then going forward, we'll talk about a few each video. So if I have noticed too that Tara shouted me out a couple times, and it doesn't always show up in my mentions. Like if you at someone but you don't do it, I don't know. One way or the other is you can talk about someone but not necessarily tag them in your video, or maybe the tag doesn't always work. But anyway, if you happen to come from a different channel, please let me know, because I would love to thank them for that. And if I haven't been checking them out already, I'd love to check them out. So please let me know. Let me go back to my notes before I forget anything. Other crafts. I think I'm going to skip that for this one. There's already plenty of things I've talked about. I do occasionally have some knitting, but I've only got just maybe a couple inches done on my shawl that I'm working on, so it's not really that interesting. However, coming up relatively soon, I'm going to have some sewing. Sorry. I would not consider myself that much of a sewer. I really don't like it, but I do it because I like the end products. So I make my own project bags. I have way more whips than project bags, but I couldn't afford to buy project bags for all of my projects. So I make them myself when I do have them. But I really need to make some more. I got some fabric as gifts recently. A friend of mine knows that I love Scooby-Doo and just gave me like a yard of Scooby-Doo fabric, and we're gonna use that. I'm gonna have to make a bag. At least, like, we're gonna make everything out of that. We're gonna make a bag, we're gonna make like a little thread bed, we're just gonna find whatever I can make out of that. So yeah, I've come into some fabric and I would like to make some more bags, but I also want to make something small for StitchCon table gifts. I am going to StitchCon Weekend A. I know there's quite a few other Flosstubers who are actually going to that one, so I hope to see you there, and if you're going, please let me know. I would love some table mates. So yeah, I want to just have something small. Last year was the first time I went, and most of the people I sat with were also first timers. But one of the people at our table had a lovely little table gift for us of like some counting pins, and I believe a scissor fob as well, that they had made. So I just want to have something small. It's not expected by any means, but it's just really sweet to receive. And so I would like to give back this year, and have something to give to my table mates. I think what I've decided to do, because I know that a lot of people do needle minders, and of course you can never have too many needle minders, but I thought about doing project bags, but I don't think I have it in me to make enough project bags for that. So I nixed that idea. Anyway, I went through several different ideas, but I think what I finally decided on is a little fold-up orc catcher that it can fold down flat and fit in a project bag or fit in like a travel case for wherever you go, and your orcs won't fall out, but you can pop it open and sit it like a little basket, kind of. I don't know. If I can find one, I'll pop up a photo. So, again, I don't like sewing, so I do it in pieces. I'll cut out all my fabric for a bunch of things all at one time, on like one event when I feel like making some sewing progress. Then the next time I'll iron out all my interfacing. Then the next time I will cut everything down to size. And then the next time, so on and so forth. So I need to get my button gear because StitchCon is coming up pretty soon. I did, while I was thinking about this, go ahead and pick out what I want to do for my smalls exchange. I haven't started that, but I'm going to keep, I think I'm going to keep that secret until after StitchCon, but I will have to get going on that. So yeah, that's other crafts that you may be seeing in the sometime future. Next is life update. So just a few things that I've done recently, or just talking about things. Last night my husband and I went to a comedy show. This was the first one either of us have ever been to, but a comedian that we, let's be fair, him, and then has just sent me some things that he has watched them on Instagram Reels and sent me some of the stuff that was pretty funny. So they were coming near us. We went ahead and got tickets. If you think about it objectively, the premise is moronic. Like, it is a purple-faced puppet named Randy Feltface, who is your comedian. The person that does the puppeteer work literally never saw the entire show. But it was pretty funny. I honestly... pretty bad with comedy. I either don't get it, or I get it, but it's just not that funny, or I don't know. So comedy's not entirely my jam, but this was good. We had a good time. It was a good date night. It was really interesting. to step out of what's our normal, what we normally do. So yeah, I learned a lot of facts about bananas, and I'm not going to explain that. So yeah, a first weekend, maybe second weekend of April, I don't quite remember now, we went to see Fall Out Boy. This was sort of the, I dragged him to that, so he dragged me to this, is sort of how we're playing it. But I have wanted to see Fall Out Boy since I was a teenager in like 2007, and I've just now reached the point in my life where we have enough money to spend it on something like a concert because of course everyone knows those are not cheap, and we got decent seats. We were like first row on one of the sides, so we weren't in the floor or anything like the VIP section because those were like more than $500 a piece. No. So ours were much more reasonable because to see the band you sort of had to turn, but we were still really like, there weren't people, like many people in front of us or you know, in the way, so it wasn't that big of a deal. We had really good view, and Pete Wentz actually did this little come out into the audience section, so like they had a thing that like lifted him up. I'll put a photo of that actually, because we were in a stellar like right there for that. It was really cool too, because you kind of knew something was coming. I would say most people in the crowd didn't, but because we were literally right in front of the thing that rose up, you could tell that, because it was like a disappearing act, right? Like you think he's on the stage, but he's actually like coming to this, and then he like rises out. We knew something was coming because it was like surrounded by security. So I was like, yeah, you can't see his face. I'm gonna bet that's not him. And it was, yeah. I didn't look up any previous concerts because I didn't really want to be spoiled. I looked up the set list to sort of see the ratio before I bought tickets, to see the ratio of like newer stuff to older stuff, just to see if it was going to be, are we literally playing the album we're touring for and pretty much nothing else, or is it going to be a good mix? And it was a great mix. I believe they played something from every album. There were a few albums that only had like maybe one or two songs, but they've had quite a few albums. So anyway, great, loved it, fabulous. One of the openers I'd never heard of. One of the other openers, because there were three, they were fine, but I think teenage me would have liked them, but 30-year-old me didn't really care. And then the next act right before Fall Out Boy came on was Jimmy Eat World, and I guess they're not as famous as Fall Out Boy, but they're pretty famous in my opinion. So I wouldn't even, they were headliners, but they were like very, I don't know, they still had quite a bit of showtime, and it was, yeah, that was good. My husband only agreed to go with me. I mean, he's fine with Fall Out Boy, you know, but like he's a little older, so he was sort of aging out of the generation that fell in love with Fall Out Boy, I think. So he was more interested in actually seeing Jimmy Eat World, but he had a great time too. It was, I think if you were fine with Fall Out Boy music, you would have enjoyed it, because the pyro was great. Like they just put on a great show. There was more theatrics. Like there was a guy in a bunny suit dancing around really not sure what that was about, but it was cool. There was a talking dog head, like a big giant animatronic head. I'll pop a photo of that too, because that was really cool. That one I do know is off their the album that they are touring for has a dog on the front, so that tracks at least. There was also like a desert-scape night scene with a giant snail that the bunny goes and dances with a little bit, so didn't get that one either. I don't know if I'm missing out on maybe some of the lore here from music videos. I don't know, but it was entertaining, that's for sure. I had a great time. I brought earplugs because I'm old now and it was way too loud. So I stole some earplugs from work that you can still hear. You can hear the words, but it like deafens the like the, it's not really an echo, but like the, anyway, I could hear everything, but it didn't give me a headache. And I also tried really hard not to scream too much so I didn't lose my voice. I really didn't go to that many concerts as a teenager or anything, but the ones that I did go to, I screamed a lot and lost my voice, so didn't want that to happen again. But yeah, it was great. I loved it. There was so many people like my age or older who had brought their kids, who were like, you know, early Fall Out Boy fans, and now their kids are younger Fall Out Boy fans, and that was really sweet. Apparently they are just a multi-generational phenomenon, so that was cool. What else? I had a couple more things, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and skip those because I still want to talk about books. Because I don't want to let the books pile up too much and then have an insane amount of books to talk about next time. So I'm just going to talk about books. Yeah. So I think I'm going to go into books, and I think people have already realized that I go on about those. I have tried to narrow it down some here, because like I said, I do have notes this time. But I apologize in advance for wordiness. At any time, you're welcome to step out. I appreciate you very much for being here for any length of time. But let me get on to books. So, I'm not going to talk about these in order because I'm sort of going to group them by like series. The first ones I'm going to talk about are probably, I would say, the most famous. They've been going around the circuit of being talked about. These are, the first one was Legends and Lattes by, I believe, Travis Baldree. I'm trying to get my Goodreads up here. And then the prequel, Bookshops and Bone Dust. So these are, they're fantasy, but okay, so they're set in like a D&D type world, but there's very little world building in the books. And I think that lends itself really well to being able to be picked up and read by anyone, even if you're not a huge fantasy reader. Like, the main character is an orc, but it doesn't matter that much. I would say maybe she defends her friends, so I guess maybe it does lend itself to her personality some, but this is like a contemporary romance, but wrapped up in a fantasy bow, which is apparently how you get me to like contemporary romance books, because this was so cute. So The first one, I actually read them in chronological order, not publishing order. So I started with the prequel, which was Bookshops and Bone Dust. And oh my god, come on, Goodreads. Apologies. But anyway, Bookshops and Bone Dust is the main character is injured during a fight and is forced to take a little sabbatical from being a mercenary. Again, it's like your character got injured in a D&D campaign, and they're going to go off and do stuff while you have to, like, sit this one out, essentially. And she is pretty much bored to tears in this tiny little seaside town where she can't really do anything physical because of her injury. And she wanders into a bookshop, becomes friends with the bookshop owner, and ends up falling into an adventure of her own. She also has like a little summer romance with this baker who works in the little town. I mean, it is cute. It is, like I said, not really focused on the world building. It's more focused on the characters and what they're going through in the moment, and not everything else, which a lot of fantasy doesn't do that, so I really, really liked that. Yeah. The second one, Legends and Lattes, is set years in the future after the events of Bookshops and Bone Dust, and this is at the point in her life where Viv, the main character, has decided that adventuring is a closed chapter of her life. She's getting older, her back's starting to hurt, and she has decided that I don't want to die in some battle that I'm in. I want to enjoy some of my life before. Okay, I think she really enjoyed adventuring, so that's not fair to say. But she wants to settle down, and she does a lot of research, and she figures out what city she wants to open up a coffee shop in. And this city has never heard of coffee, so she has to find a place to start her shop, go through all of the starting a business aspect. She meets a what is she? Succubus. I think she's a succubus. Anyway, who becomes her barista. And yeah, it's adorable. It is cozy. It is somehow riveting because I couldn't put it down. And if you've talked about it and been here while I talked about any of my other books, probably not something you would have expected me to love, but I did. So yeah, couldn't recommend those highly enough. Absolutely adorable. Let's see what else. The next one is a standalone. It's not really part of any series. So this was called The Stillwater Girls by Minka Kent. I listened to this on Audible, but I believe I first saw it and added it to my TBR when it was a free, like, Kindle first reads, Amazon Prime first reads, where you get a upcoming book free each month. I think it was that forever I think that's how it got on my list. But anyway, I listened to this on Audible. Let me see how it describes the plot, because this is one where I don't want to spoil anything. Okay, so for the most part, this is, I would say, like a psychological suspense book. There's not a lot of, okay, maybe just a mystery would be a better, maybe a cross between those two genres. But anyway, the main characters, two of them are sisters who live alone with their smaller sister and their mother in a cabin in the woods. Before the events of this book start, their mother and their youngest sister, who's sick, leave to go get help for the younger sister to get over her illness. And they never come back. So the two girls are alone in a cabin in the woods. They're late teenagers, early, like, I think one may be 20. But they're naive and sheltered. So they honestly read a little, well, especially the younger of these two reads younger than their physical age. But anyway, they're off the grid. They don't have electricity or running water or anything. I don't think they have running water anyway. But very off-grid, very isolated. They have never seen a man in their lives that they can recall. That sort of situation. Winter is coming. They're running out of food and supplies because their mother usually made supply runs, and she's been gone. They don't know where she went, so they couldn't recreate this if they wanted to. So they're slowly starving. And then one day, a man appears and tells them, like, he threatens to take them away from where they're at. So instead, they run away themselves. They happen upon it's sort of told from like a dual POV perspective. You have the POV of the older girl in the cabin, and then also a side POV that they do eventually converge, but early on you're like, is this two different worlds? Like, they don't even, I do not understand how these are going to merge, but they do eventually merge. So this lady is her husband is a famous photographer. They are wealthy. They chose to live in like upstate New York, away from the crowds in her husband's small hometown. And she is concerned that her husband is keeping secrets from her. That's her plot line, really, up until their lines converge. I don't want to give anything away if you are curious in reading this, so I'm not going to say anything more, but I felt like this was good. I gave it 4 stars. I wouldn't say it was, the holy grail of books or anything, but it was interesting. I felt it was relatively unique. I think the like sheltered girl thing has been done before, but there was a twist that I felt was really unique. Yeah, it was really good. What is next? Okay. Next is another book that I listened to on Audible. This is called The Black God's Drums by P. J. Clark. This, I think the audiobook narrator absolutely made this. It's set in a alternate history version of New Orleans. So there's a lot of different accents that are going through the book. Like there's a Haitian accent, there's Cajun, Creole, a mix of all sorts of different European accents because New Orleans was a big trade town. So lots of different accents that I really felt like the narrator did really well. And I think that it would have been harder to read. So I don't know if I would recommend reading this unless you're the type of person who can imagine those accents in your head. But I am not really that type of person. Like it's hard for me to be reading something and they try to write down the way that you would speak it. So like you're in like a southern accent, you would write that as Y-U-R or Y-E-R, not Y-O-U-R-E. And I would just rather actually read something that is just standard, typical English language, not really writing the accents into that. So I don't know if I could have read it, honestly, but listening to it, the narrator was able to keep the accents different for the different characters. And I mean, I don't live in that area and I don't know these accents personally, but they sounded believable to me anyway. So yeah, that was great. But the premise of this story, like I said, it's alternate history, and the alternate portion is the Civil War was never really won by any one side. They sort of just kept fighting and then they had a peace treaty. So the north and south of the US are still very divided. But they're not actively fighting. And New Orleans had a peace, like a peace agreement that it is a neutral territory. So again, it's a very big port city, even in this alternate reality, alternate history. And it's also steampunk, like that sort of vibe. There are dirigible airships. There's some like steampunk technology that also give this a really cool fantasy vibe. There are some racial undertones in this. Like the main character is a person of color. A lot of characters are people of color in the book. The author is a person of color, and the narrator were a person of color. And I think that it did a really, really good job of making this very believable in the sense that there's still slavery in the South because it was never abolished, because there was no like winner of the American Civil War. So there's still tension between, I mean, not that there still isn't, but there's heavy tension between the different races in this book. And I think they did a good job of making that, like, making the book light and easy to read, but especially like as an adult, hearing these or reading about these topics makes you think. So it covers it has that deeper undertone that maybe if you were younger you wouldn't catch. But this was great. I absolutely love this. I really loved the steampunk fantasy element, and I really enjoyed just the cultural aspect of it too. It's not, especially like Cajun steampunk. Like just not my standard, go-to read, but it was fabulous. So, of course, forget the rest of my TBR. I loved this so much that I wanted to check out what else that the author has written. So I read 2 more books by him. They're I would say novellas, actually. They're pretty short. The first one was fabulous. It was called A Master of Gin, again, by P.J. Clark. And this is again, alternate history with some steampunk. But this is set in Cairo, Egypt, in the early 1900s. There's that steampunk vibe, but there's also like a more fantastical element in this one, because part of that alternate history is that someone has managed to pierce like what separates the layers of the universe, and have opened up the world to jinn and other supernatural beings. So the first novella in this universe is called A Master of Jinn, and this is about the main character of this universe. Her name is Fatma. I'm not going to try pronouncing the rest of this because there's a lot of names I don't want to butcher. So we're going to leave it at that. But she is an agent of the Ministry of Magic, Alchemy, and Supernatural Entities, I believe. And she is on the case solving the murder of a jinn. This was just, like, I couldn't believe how in-depth this was when it was a novella. Like, it was so short, but it left me dying for more. And I mean, it still had a lot of development and it wrapped up really well, but it left me aching for more. So I went to the next one. And that one was called The Haunting of Tramcar 015. It was fine, but I didn't love it the same way as I just fell in love with the other one. And I think the audiobook narrator for this one, again, I listened to both of these on Audible, and the narrator for this one, so the first one, the narrator was female. The second one, the narrator was kind of male voice. But that wasn't the main character in this one was male, so I think that's why they did it. But they had, they emphasized different words in a sentence than what I would emphasize. So it sounded kind of jarring. I don't know. And I also felt like all the characters sounded the same, so I had a hard time keeping them straight. The story was fine. It was fine. I was still super interested in this world enough that I did still go ahead and start. Oh no. I'm sorry. You probably have already seen this because I will have corrected myself in editing, but I'm just looking at my Goodreads here, and I'm still reading A Master of Jinn. So that is like a full novel set in this universe, and the other two are like prequel novellas. So what I had talked about happening was correct, but the title was wrong. So, like I said, I wanted more of this world, so I am currently listening to A Master of Jinn. I'm going to go ahead and not talk about that one too much, though, but just know that I was so riveted by those novellas and this world and this author that I just dove headfirst. So, and then I think the last two are Tamara Pierce, and I will go through those pretty fast because if you've listened to anything else on my book talks, I talk about a lot of Tamara Pierce. So, the two that I read continued in the same Imelon world as what I had left off last time. So they're following two young mages, two different young mages, one per book. As they're older now, they're traveling with their teachers, but they're still young. They're still like 14. The first one was Cold Fire. This is following the Smith Mage that I had talked about in others, so I'm just going to sort of leave it at that. But she can... her magic deals... these are obviously fantasy novels by the author Tamara Pierce. I just wanted to preference that if you didn't hear any of my other talks about Tamara Pierce novels. But her magic has to do with metals, which is why she's a smith, a blacksmith, and fire. So fire doesn't burn her, she can hold hot metal and it's fine, and she can control fire to a certain extent. It's not, she can't create fire, but she can, there's some things that she can do to move it or control it or hold it, something like that, if that makes any sense. So this story went completely just very unique in my opinion. This one is set in like I would say maybe like a Nordic country like Finland or Norway, Sweden, that area, because it gets very, very cold and the winter is very, very long, to the point that the city that they're in is a port city, but everything freezes solid, so everyone gets around by like ice skating or carriage or something like that if you can't skate, but the fastest way is just to skate. And it's cold, it's winter, there's a lot of darkness, and someone is taking advantage of this entire town being mostly built out of wood to become a serial arsonist. And Daja, the main character, she ends up inadvertently helping catch this person, but that was never the intention. I don't want to spoil too much, but it was so good. It was so good. She grew, like, there's a good portion of the book as well is from the, well, I wouldn't say a good portion. I would say, okay, there's a portion of the book that is actually from the point of view of this serial arsonist, and that was very interesting. Like, they were verbally abused by their mother, and they have a lot of trauma, and it sort of gives you an insight into their psyche and where they're coming from. Of course, you don't really you feel empathetic. You don't feel sympathetic. Like, obviously what they're doing is very wrong, especially when they're killing people and it's not just they burned down a barn that was empty. So you don't feel sympathetic, but you understand them a little bit better and you empathize with how they got to the point of burning down a hospital. It is very interesting and just so unique, especially in like a fantasy element setting too. Like, you know, it's, I love it. Love Tamara Pierce. Cannot talk about her enough. But moving on to the last one that I most recently finished, it is called Shatterglass. So this one is following the weather. She's a weather mage, but the element that she has some sort of affinity to is lightning. So she encounters someone who has actually been struck by lightning and survived that, although they had to come back from some paralysis and they still have like lasting effects. They were a glass blower who lost a lot of their abilities and had to come back from scratch. But she recognizes that they have some lightning magic now after that they didn't have previously. So she starts to, and she's still a kid herself, really. So she's like 14, so of course the guy doesn't take her seriously, but she ends up trying to teach, and while she's at it, concurrently in this area that they're in, which reminded me a lot of, like, I would say Greece, the Mediterranean, that area. I apologize for Kitty. She wants to go outside. Anyway, so this one was really interesting because of the social caste system in this city. And so she is an outsider who traveled here, you know, so it gives you, as she's learning about the way that this city operates, this just area, region, whatever, you get to learn that with her. So it's really interesting. You obviously are an outsider to this as well, and so her reaction to this system is what any modern day person is going to have reading this as well. For example, just to give you an example, in this city, the lowest caste are the people who have to clean up the trash, the sewage, those sorts of things, and who also deal with dead people. So anyone who carts off the dead bodies when someone drops dead, or prepares them for funerary services, anyone who touches or deals with the dead, and they're considered tainted, and they can't, people who are not in that caste are not allowed to look at them, talk to them, God forbid touch them, because then that taint of the dead will come off on them. You are expected to be outraged on behalf of these people, as she is. And so, yeah, so this one was really interesting, just with the area and the system that you're learning about, that she's being a part of at this point. And the storyline about this one, though, is someone is murdering people in the cast right below and right above that lowest one that you're not even allowed to talk to them. They're like the entertainer class. They're not necessarily like prostitutes or anything, but they're dancers, street performers, stuff like that. And they're still considered indecent and immoral regardless of not actually being prostitutes here. But yeah, so they're really looked down on, and no one is taking the murder seriously because they actually have like a word in their culture that means no one of importance got hurt because they're not important. So this was so good because of like dealing with the social injustices of this area that she's visiting, as well as the storyline itself. Yeah, so okay, I'm done. so many books. This actually may turn out to be my longest Flosstube, and I apologize for that, but if you stuck with me, I really appreciate it. I hope it was interesting to maybe learn a little bit more about what I've been into and get a little bit more feel for my personality. But yeah, I will catch you in the next one. I hope you have a great rest of your day, evening, afternoon, whatever it is when you're watching this. And I'll see you next time. Bye!